the last. Read the translation again. Sri Sutta Goswami said, while returning home, the king Maharaj Parikshit felt that the act he had committed against the faultless and powerful Brahmana was heinous and uncivilized. Consequently, he was distressed. So, Maharaj Parikshit, being a devotee, immediately regretted his act. Even though it was induced by the mercy of the Lord, because he wanted, he had put the great devotee in an illusion on his own, by his humble nature. He can always understand if he has committed a mistake. This is one of the great qualities of a devotee. Devotees are always able to understand when they have committed mistakes. And in this case, even though there is a very little fault on Maharaj Parikshit, still he considered it as a greatness act. By, as I said, by nature he is humble, so he accepted, and that's again one more sign. Devotee means he accepts responsibility for the faults. He doesn't argue, oh, you not give me water, I was thirsty, I was this, I was that. He didn't argue. He just was, contemplating. Text 2. Due to my neglecting the injunctions of the Supreme Lord, I must certainly expect some difficulty to overcome me in the near future. I now desire without reservation that the calamity come now. For in this way, the sinful and not such an offense again. Again, this is the mood of a devotee. The devotee, when he accepts, not only just accepting his mistake is a sign of a devotee, but accepting our mistakes also include repenting. And part of repentance is accepting the punishment, right? So when a devotee or even pious person, when he is punished for his, he feels joy in the heart, because he understands that now that he is whatever he has done, because the guilty feeling is much worse for a devotee than the the pain of punishment, because devotees, they are all very highly elevated, so they are established in always dharma. So when accidentally, Srila Prabhupada says, sometimes accidentally, without real cause, like in the case of Parikshit Maharaj, he may do it. But then even accidental ones, they really repent in their heart, and then they want to be rewarded the punishment so that they can be purified. So this is a mood. If somebody wants to advance in Krishna consciousness very much, generally we talk about encouraging devotees, praising devotees for their work. That's true in the initial stages of Krishna conscious. But once we have sufficiently advanced, once we have come to a certain steadiness within Krishna consciousness, we should be looking out opportunities to purify ourselves more and more. So actually, when a distress falls on a devotee or a tough situation comes to a devotee, where then there is a suffering to a devotee, the devotee is naturally happy, because he takes it as a sign that the Lord wants to purify him very fast. We would see that in the life of all great devotees, including Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada, lost all his business, and he was eventually, when he went into a very bad situation, Srila Prabhupada immediately remembered the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam where it says Krishna takes away all the attachments of a devotee. And then he took it as the mercy of the Lord. And then, from there on, he understood, because one thing we need to be very clear is there cannot be any karma for devotees, right? Even, a person who has a Krishna consciousness, he is far superior to a most advanced person in any other spiritual process. Because when we become devotee, we become the character, the control. So we need to understand when there is something, externally it may look like it's not a real suffering. We understand that We understand that this is Krishna's will, and that's the other verse we saw. The devotees, they always see even reverses as the you know as uh, as a mercy of the Lord. That's when our advancement in Krishna consciousness becomes much faster. So if we want to advance in Krishna consciousness, we should hire not praise but criticism. Right? When somebody criticizes us, our advanced Krishna consciousness is very high. We can look into every criticism and see how we can use that criticism to improve ours. Even externally, it may not look like a right criticism. Still, and humbleness means we are ready to accept it. Like in the case of we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in when he was criticized, he would say, when he was criticized by his spiritual master that unnecessarily, so and all the devotees were feeling, why is this being criticized? Mahaprabhu said, don't say it. He is doing it out of his good heart. He is thinking of me. We should not take criticism. We should learn to take criticism in a positive manner. Then our advance in Krishna consciousness will be super fast. Text 3. I am uncivilized and sinful due to my neglect of Brahminical culture, God consciousness, and cow protection. Therefore, I wish that my kingdom, strength, riches burn up immediately by the fire of the Brahmana's wrath, so that in the future I may not be guided by such vicious activities. Immediately, the devotee, recognizes the, his mistake, and he asks for a punishment. So, Jiva Goswami actually comments, even though Parikshit Maharaj says, let my kingdom, what he says is his, leadership over the kingdom. He's not actually meaning the kingdom. Because Jiva Goswami says, if the whole kingdom, if he wishes the whole kingdom to burn, then it means the Brahmanas also within that will burn. Rather, he wanted the curse to fall on himself alone, so that he would be bereft of his kingdom, strength, and riches. So that was the mood that Parikshit Maharaj is exhibiting here. The question: is it really practical to be so that we, when we read Kunti Maharani prayers and when we see Parikshit Maharaj here, that they want something bad to happen to them? How can somebody be so detached? So it is very difficult to understand the consciousness of a real devotee, right? Because he is living in relationship with Krishna even while he is in this world. The example that is given is a drama actor. Okay, when a drama actor, he knows ultimately everything is controlled by the director, and he will be called a good actor if he follows the instruction of of the director. In one scene, the director will portray a scene where this hero becomes very rich, right? And the next, he would see that somebody is stabbing the actor in the back, right? Both of this happens. When the actor finishes the scene and then he goes back, he will return whatever money he got, just to show it in the drama. And also let's say, whatever knife that was put on the back, the fake also he'll take and give director. He'll return everything to the director and the producer of the drama, because he knows very clearly, right? And for him, the relationship with that person is more important. Similarly, devotees, because they understand Krishna as the ultimate producer and the director of every activity that is happening, both good and bad, they are able to digest it very nicely, right? They see everything in relationship to Krishna. Because an actor knows, whether it is gain or loss in a drama where he is acting, it is temporarily, right? only a crazy actor will say, "Oh, this money belongs to me," or this knife is in he will identify himself with the part he is playing. Like the wearing a costume, wearing, right? So devotees, because they are awake to their real eternal life with Krishna, they see the world from a very different perspective. Devotees definitely want to play their part, but when the director of the play, who is Krishna, indicates that it is time to leave the stage, they recognize his signs as Parikshit Maharaj did and prepare themselves to exit the play, right? They know that as soon as the show is over, they will go and meet their dearmost friend. It's like it's like in your office. That when you come back home, you're going to meet your friends and family. It's going to be a more relaxed and easy atmosphere. So the devotee, for him, the material world is like that. He knows that he is just doing his job here. It's like an office to him, and he knows the real home is back home, back to God, and he's eager. As soon as the director finishes, like an actor running, as soon as the office work is over, we all rush back to office, sorry, rush back to home, because that's where we are happy, or we can be in our natural element. So similarly, the devotee, all that, uh, on one level we may see that the misfortune of a great ruler being forced to leave his. On the other hand, we should understand that this is Krishna's plan, right? As we see the whole pastime, though, here the whole Bhagavatam, we'll realize how merciful Krishna was to Parikshit Maharaj. Text 4. While the king was thus repenting, he received the news of his imminent death, which would be due to the bite of a snake bird, occasioned by the curse spoken by the son. The king accepted this as good news, for it would be the cause of his indifference towards worldly. So, it's a very, very beautiful verse. If we observe Parikshit Maharaj closely, we can learn to cope up with all difficult situations, even horrific things that are happening, including our own death. We'll have that strength if we properly observe and follow the footsteps of Parikshit Maharaj. In his chapter, in the purports, there are all the purports that Srila Prabhupada has written so far, in until this one, there are some interesting points Srila Prabhupada is making on this regard. In the second purport to the second verse, Srila Prabhupada says, Parikshit Maharaj is a calamity to fall on him. By suffering personally, he would be restrained from future sins, and at the same time, the sin which he committed would be counteracted so that others will not suffer. So the understanding, Prabhupada writes in his purport, the different understanding of the mood devotee. We should very carefully read the purport. They are very, very powerful and very important to learn. Prabhupada says in the purport, as the devotee of the Lord, he understands that the curse, although unwise, was a blessing upon him, because the cause of detachment from worldly affairs, both political and social. Samikya also, after regretting the incident, conveyed the news to the king as a matter of duty, so that the king would be able to prepare himself to go back to Godhead. So you see, both the devotees, both are detached, both can understand the hand of Krishna in this one. And so they take it, and they know that anything that Krishna does is full of auspiciousness, right? So they accepted it, But Prabhupada also mentions, that Parikshit Maharaj could have gone to the Muni and said, "Please, sorry," and but then he didn't want to put the Muni also in such position, because the Munis, it's like the Muni would naturally see Parikshit Maharaj as higher than him, because he knows that he's a pure devotee of the Lord. So it would put the Muni in a shameful position. So he didn't want to give any distress to the Muni as well. So he decided to prepare himself for the death and go back home, back to Godhead. And just the part by saying that Parikshit Maharaj was super fortunate to get a 7-day notice, because generally, common man, there is no definite notice. We don't know when our death will come. we tend to neglect our duty of going back home, back to Godhead. So we see that that Parikshit Maharaj was super clear in his idea. Text 5. Maharaj Parikshit sat down firmly on the banks of Ganges to concentrate his mind in Krishna consciousness, rejecting all other practices of self-realization, because transcendental loving service is the greatest achievement, superseding all other methods. Very important verse, which very clearly says the most important of everything is our devotional service to Krishna. Sridhar Swami, original commentator of Srimad Bhagavatam, comments follows. He mentions. Srila Prabhupada also quotes that. That the phrase, here if you see Sri Krishnangini Sevam Adimanyamana, Krishnangri Seva Adimanyamana, the third line of the verse, in that very clearly says that Maharaj Parikshit understood that service to Lord Krishna, Krishna's lotus feet is the goal of life. Krishna Seva, Krishna Angri means the lotus feet of the Lord. That is clear that Parikshit was a pure devotee of Krishna even before meeting Srila. So, this is from here we can understand that Krishna is the Parikshit Maharaj was already a pure devotee of the Lord, and Srila Prabhupada talked various rasas and the importance of Ganga and Yamuna in his purport. So, text 6. The river Ganges, by which the king sat to fast, carries the most auspicious water, which is mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord and tulsi leaves. Therefore, the water sanctifies the three worlds inside and outside, and even sanctifies Lord Shiva and other demigods. Consequently, everyone who is destined to die must take shelter of this river. So, to even, in the Shastra it is said, even the air that has touched Ganga, if touches our body, when we are leaving this body, we will not have birth again. There is a story in Ganga, which is very similar to the story of Ajamil. So there was this very sinful Brahmana who by nature was very sinful, doing all rascal activity. And in the same city there lived a very nice devotee of Mother Ganga. Every day he will go worship Mother Ganga, and then he will carry a pot of this Mother Ganga's water, and then he will take home and use it in the service of the Lord. So one day the sinful Brahmana, he was just walking by the street, and there was this strong bull sitting by. And this Brahmana, by nature, being sinful, he hurt the bull, unnecessarily. He attacked the bull. Generally the bull is very, very calm and collected. But that day the bull got angry, and it gored the Brahmana, and then he started bleeding in the street, and he was about to die. And all these people were looking around and cursing him. This guy is a sinful fellow. He unnecessarily troubled a bull, and it has now put him in this situation. He's going to die, and all these things. As they were talking, the other devotee, who was a great devotee of Mother Ganges, he was on his way back home collecting the water of Ganga, to his house. And as he was going, he saw this Brahmana, this sinful Brahmana lying down, with blood pouring out of him, and he's about to die. And out of pity, he took a handful of this Ganga, and he put on this Brahmana. And as soon as he did that, at that moment exactly, the sinful Brahmana left his body. And then this pious devotee Brahmana also could, by the mercy of Mother Ganga, he could see everything. And he saw that, the Yamadutas had come, and they were, collecting this sinful fellow from his body, and they were about to take him. This guy was crying. Immediately before Vishnudutas came, and then they said, you cannot collect this guy. The Yamadharmaraja said, what do you mean by we can't? He has done so many sinful activities. Rightfully he should be punished by our master, Yamadharmaraja. Then the Vishnu Sudha said, no, no, no. As he was dying, the Ganges water touched his body. So all the sinful activities that he has ever done, they are all purified. And then there is an argument. The Yamadutas try to force, and then Vishnu Dutas cut them with their chakra. And then the Yamadutas run away. This sinful fellow, Vishnu Dutas take him in an aeroplane, back home, back to Godhead, to Vaikuntha. And this pious devotee who was seeing all these things, he was amazed. And then he runs back to Ganga and he prays. You are so merciful that even the sinful person, has reached. Can you please me as well? And then Ganga Mata appears and he says she's very happy with his service, and that even after he finishes all his preaching, he will go back home, back to Godhead. So that is the glory of Ganga, that even even though not even water, in the Shastra it is said even the air that has touched a Ganga, if it touches the body of a sinful, he will be relieved of all his sinful activities. So the Ganga is very particularly glorified here, and we see that Maharaj Parikshit took shelter of that particular river, which is carrying the lotus feet dust of Krishna mixed with Tulsi Marani. Text 7. Thus the king, the descendant of the Pandavas, decided once and for all, and sat on the Ganges bank to fast until death and give himself lotus feet of Lord Krishna, who alone is able to award liberation. So freeing himself from all kinds of associations and attachments, he accepted the vows of a sage. So we see that because the devotee has a very clear understanding of the whole material world, and he also understands the mood of Krishna, like a actor who understands the mood of a director. He will be a very good actor because he knows what the he knows that the mood of the director. He knows when he needs to exit. He understands. Similarly, devotee knows the mood of Krishna. So for him, there is no real attachment, right? For him, there is no real attachment, and he can very easily understand when to enter the stage, what to do, and then when to exit. He's very clear. He's not confused. There is no confusion. So here Parikshit Maharaj, immediately understood this curse to be the will of the Lord, and he immediately gave up, and he didn't worry about anything. Text. At the time, all the minds and thinkers, accompanied by their disciples and sages who could verily sanctify a place of pilgrimage just by their presence, arrived there on the plea of making a pilgrim's journey. So as soon as and all the sages for the world, they immediately came there, right? We will see the names of the great rishis verse. See, Srila Prabhupada, also mentions how common men go to pilgrim sites to get them purified, and the pilgrimage places becomes overburdened with sins. But when sages arrive, by their purity, they are able to purify even the pilgrim sites. We see that such a glorification was given to Narada Muni in earlier verses. So here that has been repeated again by Srila Prabhupada. So all the sages gathered from all direction to meet Maharaj Parikshit, because they could foresee that Sukadeva Goswami is going to speak Srimad Bhagavatam, and they wanted to take advantage of the great occasion. From different parts of the universe, there arrived great sages like Atri, Chavana, Saradvan, Aristameni, Bhrigu, Vashistha, Parasara, Vishwamitra, Angira, Parashurama, Indramapada, Indamahu, Medaditi, Devala, Aristisena, Bharadvaja, Gautama, Pipalada, Maitreya, Aurva, Kavasha, Kambayoni, Dvaipayana, and the great personality Narada. So Narada Muni alone is called as Bhagavan because he is such a dear devotee of the Lord. He is non-different from the and Prabhupada in the purport, he explains about each of these rishis, how Bhrigu, Bhrigu Rishi was the son of Brahma, and he was born from the sacrifice that Brahma did. Vashistha Muni, we have heard about him in the previous verses. Parashara was the father of Vasudev, and he was the one who wrote Vishnu Puran. Then Vishwamitra, again we know Vishwamitra was a great sage. He was the one who was instrumental in the marriage of Lord Rama and Sita, and story of Harishchandra. Places we will see Vishwamitra. Again, Angira Muni is one of the mental sons of Lord Brahma, one of the 6 mental sons of Lord Brahma, and he is the father of Brahaspati, who is the guru of the Devatas. Know about Parashuram, and then Uttaya was one of the 3 sons of Angira Maharishi, and then Medaditi again is an old sage, and he is one of the rishis in the Indra Loka, heavenly planet. Devala, he is a great authority like Narada Muni and Vyasadeva. In Gita, Arjuna specifically talks about Ashita and Devala. Bharatva, Gautama is one of the 7 great sages of the and he also had a son of name Saradwan, who was again talked about in this verse. And Maitreya is the great rishi who talked to Vidura. We will talk about Maitreya rishi in second and third chapter, third cantos. And text 11. There were also many other saintly demigods, kings, and royal Skodayas, special rank of Raja Rishis from different dynasty of sages. When they all assembled together to meet the emperor Parikshit, he received them properly and bowed his head to the ground. So Srila Prabhupada talks about Dandavats in the purport, that the system of bowing down the head to the ground to superior is a very important and excellent etiquette, right? It is said in the Puranas, when older person and a younger person, the life energy is more in a young person, and the life energy is less older person. So generally, the life energy from the younger person to the low, it's like water. If it is too high and if there is a low, it goes to the low, right? So similarly, the life energy will go to the older person, and so Manu Samhita says that as soon as we see our superiors, elder in age, we should do dandavats, because when we do dandavats, we arrest that flow of life, and by their blessing, we will actually extend our life more by their words. So it's a very important thing that we respect the elders. And it talks about that if we fall at the lotus feet of somebody, all our sins are forgiven. So it is very important etiquette. Text 12. After all the rishis and the others seated themselves comfortably, the king, humbly standing before them with folds, told them of his decision to fast until death. Maharaj Parikshit, because they curious, they are all great rishis, they have a vision to see everything. Still, it's an etiquette, when we meet our spiritual masters, whether Siksha or Diksha Guru, to explain, this is the situation I am in, please. So here, the king stood, because again, being a devotee, he takes the most humble position, and, acts as he is an offender, and he is just trying to do a small punishment. That's how he is portraying himself. The fortunate king said, "Indeed, we are the most grateful of all the kings who are trained to get favors from the great souls. Generally, you sages consider royalty as a refuse to be rejected and left in a distant place." Generally the sages, they don't mix with Kshatriyas or the king. We see that Srila Prabhupada also talks in the purport that Prataparudra, King Prataparudra, who was the king of Orissa at the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he heard about the glories of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was the court pandit, head pandit of Sarvabhauma, and of Prataparudra. Prataparudra king had great respect for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And then when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya explained that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is non-different from Krishna, the king had great desire to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Some or other he wanted to meet, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, I'm a sannyasi. Sannyasi should never, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, should, to be in touch with, intimate touch with dollar and cents man, or the kingly order is one side. So, and then the king, actually, he said that, if he can't meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's ready to give up the kingdom and, become, a beggar in the street. And later, by the mercy of the devotees, he got the darshan of Mahaprabhu. He was allowed to massage the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So similarly, here we see Parikshit Maharaj also, even though he was a king, he's not a dollar and cents man. The sages didn't see him. They could understand that externally, even though he acted as a king, he was a great devotee of the Lord. And, this whole thing has been arranged by a Lord, and something momentary, extraordinarily momentary is going to happen, right? This particular event is same as the advent of Lord Krishna in the material world. Why? Because Srimad Bhagavatam and Lord Sri Krishna are non-different from each other. So the rishis could understand that something great thing is going to happen. And they were seeing Parikshit Maharaj not as a king or an offender or anything, but they understood that he is a great devotee of the Lord. Text 14. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of both the transcendental and the mundane worlds, has graciously overtaken me in the form of a Brahmana's curse. Due to my being attached to life, the Lord in me has appeared before me in such a way that only out of fear I will detach myself from the world. This is definitely not the case, but then still, Parikshit Maharaj sees it that way, being a humbleness. He was born in a family of great devotees. Srila Prabhupada, talks about how even he has to be detached by a different way. So the point is why this was done to Parikshit Maharaj is so that he can set as an example for all future devotees like us. So we should be begging the Lord the detachment from this material world. And if we really do that, then the Lord will directly take action. Srila Prabhupada also writes, such direct action is taken by the Lord in the case of a special devotee. So this is not an ordinary circumstance. And Parikshit Maharaj as well, he is able to see. Problem with us is we do not recognize when Krishna is there in front of us or when he's doing something special for us. We just think, I am like this, I have to overcome this, this, that. When we have a bad situation, it kind of completely overtakes our mind. We are completely lost in that thought that we do not see the hand of the Lord in that such process. We do not see that Krishna is actually orchestrating the whole thing. So whereas Parikshit Maharaj very clearly understood it, but he understood it in a very humble platform, right? So he saw him as an offender and Krishna as the merciful Lord who is saving him. Oh Brahmanas, text 15, just accept me as a completely surrendered soul, and let Mother Ganges, the representative of the, accept me in that way, for I have already taken the lotus feet of Lord into my heart. Let the snake bird or whatever magical thing the Brahmana created bite me at once. I only desire that you all continue singing the deeds of Lord Vishnu. So here again we see how Parikshit Maharaj has rejected another form practice, spiritual practice, and he is very strongly desiring only through three things: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. He wants to think of the lotus feet of the Lord, he wants to hear the glories sung by the devotees, and he also wants to sing along with them. So this is again typical of a devotee. We see how the passing away of Bhishma Deva, we also heard of the passing away of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur, he was holding the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya, looking at the face of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he was chanting the holy name of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and he left his body. So similarly here, we see that first, he for the acceptance of the great souls. He's begging for the mercy of the devotees. This is such a fortunate thing that if we are able to beg for mercy of the devotees at the end of the life is such a glorious thing. So here, he is first begging the sages to accept his surrender, and he is also through them Gamata. Right? It's like again, we do not approach the previous acharyas directly. We have to do the parampara, right? So here we see how Parikshit Maharaj is so conscious of that fact, and he's begging their acceptance of his surrender, and he is also asking them to recommend him to Mother Ganga so that she will also give her mercy to him. So that's how we need to approach. We need to approach his disciples, and then take us to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and him to his Goshodas Babaji Maharaj, and like that all the way to the lotus feet of him. So here we see how that perfect etiquette is followed by Parikshit Maharaj as well, and how much he was eager, in to hear the glories of the Lord. Even though he has brought Krishna completely in his heart by always thinking of Krishna, still he wanted to hear. So that shows how important Shravanam and Kirtanam are. So it is very important to hear. Text 16. Again, offering obeisances unto all you Brahmanas, I pray that if I should again take my birth in the material world, I will have complete attachment to the unlimited love of Sri Krishna, Lord Krishna, association with his devotees, and friendly relationship with all living beings. So here we see na dhanam na janam na sundarim kantamba jagadisha kamaye janmani janmanishware bhavatal bhakti rahaitu kitvayi. So the devotee doesn't ask for liberation. He doesn't going back to God. He's ready. Whatever Krishna is giving to him, he's willing to accept that. So if Krishna wants him to take birth, he's ready. But only thing, here Parikshit Maharaj wants he wants, to be, attached to the service of the Lord and the devotees. We see that also in Bhakti Vinod Thakur in his songs. He's writing that if I have to take birth, please let me take birth as a dog in the house of a Vaishnava. This is what Bhakti Vinod Thakur is begging. Right? That's the humbleness that the devotee carries in his heart. He doesn't even want human birth. Even if he just want, but some or other, whatever birth he attains, even if as an insect or a dog or something, he still some or other wants the association of our devotees. Right? We see the similar mood here that is, expressed by Parikshit Maharaj. That if I have to take birth, I'm okay with it. But he didn't ask to be born back again as a king, or next time let me Brahmana so that I can higher than a Kshatriya, or let me take birth in heavenly kingdom. He's not even asking for going back home, back to Godhead. He already had the darshan of Krishna from the moment of his birth, even before he was born. From that moment until now, he has always been thinking of Krishna. We saw how even when he went to war, he always heard about the glories of the Pandavas and Krishna's relationship to them. So in every possible activity, he was always engaged in. Even such a devotee, he doesn't demand. He doesn't ask Krishna, give me this, give me that. I should be liberated. I should go back home, back to God. No. He was very clear, and he was only asking for, let me always be attached to the service of the Lord. Let me not give up this service of the Lord. So this is very important mood for us to carry. Text 17. In perfect Sarv-Kaharaj, Parikshit sat down on a seat of straw, with straw roots facing the east, placed on the southern bank of the Ganges, and he himself faced the just image of his come over to his son. So now Parikshit Maharaj is ready to accept the curse, and he has handed over his kingdom to his son, finished, all attachments gone. And it describes how he followed the Vedic culture, right? Even though it doesn't matter what direction, but still that he sets an example. So we see how he placed roots facing the east and the southern bank of the, and he himself faced the north. So, Prabhupada writes, facing east and north are very auspicious. See that Vastu Shastra, the house should either be facing east or north. So, here we see is, he is doing everything that will help him achieve better result. Text 18. The king must had to fast until death. All the demigods of higher planets praised the king's action and in pleasure continuously scattered flowers over the earth and beat celestial drums. We may think, why are these demigods celebrating the death of a pure devotee? It's certainly not an auspicious thing. But demigods could understand that, also, as we all know, they could also see that he's a pure devotee and he's going to go back home, back to Godhead. And by this act of this whole Leela, he's to help or assist in adventing of Srimad Bhagavatam into this material world. So they saw it's the glorious activity behind it, and they were, overwhelmed with ecstasy. So they started, beating the drums and showering flowers. We see that even in Krishna Leela. If we read Krishna Leela, every time, if you read the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, and then the Ivam Sapan, where the Krishna's part explained, anytime he killed demons like Agasura and other demons, when Krishna did great, put flowers on him. Like when Rama killed Ravana, the demigods, they played the musical drums and they scattered flowers from the heavenly planet. Same activity was done because Parikshit Maharaj is going to kill the effects of Kali Yuga by helping or assisting in the advent of Srimad Bhagavatam. So they saw this as a glorious opportunity, and they also know that Parikshit Maharaj is going to go back home, back to Godhead. So the activity that is very auspicious for him because he's going back to Krishna, and it's also auspicious for the other living entities because he may be going back to God. What about all the people? Because such a great king is leaving, then Kali Yuga is going to become more prominent, and it's going to become more problem. So, but he also counteracted that by assisting in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So either way, it was glorious. It was glorious for the people who were left behind, and it was glorious for Parikshit Maharaj. So in both, because it was glorious, the demigods, they were glorifying this act of Parikshit Maharaj. So we'll finish the class here, because from the next part we will talk about what he wanted to know, in relationship to going back home, back to Godhead. So the real discussions of Srimad Bhagavatam will start. Very glorious, chapter and a glorious activity of Parikshit Maharaj. So with this, we'll finish our class. Thank you all for joining. Grindaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you.
the truth. We are all looking for happiness, we are all looking for the truth. There are so many temporary truths, but there is one absolute truth. And that is Krishna. And he's the Sarva Karana Karanam, is the cause of all causes. Sometimes as a kid we make one small rat with a paper and we attach one string, and then the cat come there, and he look at this, and we move it, and when we move it, he also moves. He's trying to catch the rat, But because it's an animal, he's focusing immediately on that. He doesn't see there is a string, he doesn't see there is somebody who's pulling the string. But we as human, we can understand this cosmic manifestation, there is somebody behind who's pulling the string. So we can see the Supreme Lord. We have the power to discriminate. That's why I say, Atato